And just like that, welcome back for the Consolidation final of the Trackmania Games solo mixed tournament. And yeah, I mean, the entirety of Germany is here. All three remaining members of the German squad are all regrouped into this very single match. And poor Elkon, he's going to feel lonely out there, the only representative of Czechia, and in with a shot of making it 3 nations instead of 2 in the grand final. This is definitely something to look out for.
66 nations in this Trackmania Games, G-Geek, and we only have 3 countries in the top 6. Absolutely wild. Great Britain is in cool company as 2 of them await 2 more in the grand finals. And yes, 3 Germans taking on the solo Czech player of Elkon. It's exciting. You got different stories from the German players, but at a certain point, only 1 to 2 Germans can make it forward, so they kind of gotta take each other out.
Yeah, there's going to be, at the very worst, 1 loss on the German camp or 2 losses on the German camp. Now, if you were to make it 2 wins, who would you actually want? The one who comes from the all the way lower bracket round, like Massa? Or would you want the captain to go through in Granati? Or would you want the coach to go through in Leicester? All 3 have it in there to actually do it. And it's going to be a very, very, very rough outlook.
Well, I was annoying about it because I said, hey, coach, captain, you had your chance against Great Britain. You didn't get it done. Give the other players a chance. But hey, maybe having that experience and knowing what they're up against, what kind of risks you have to take. I feel like Trackmania, it's all about risk management. Yeah, I could take this turn a little bit safer, but I'm up against Epos. I can't do that. I have to take the best lines possible. I have to get within 3/10 of the record for this track. So they understand what risks need to be taken in the finals. So probably the coach and captain are the best to push forward as you go on. But, you know, for Massa, it's hard to not get behind this story for him. He has suffered a lot in the lower bracket, eliminated so many players, so many nations, really single-handedly. So I think, G-Geek, whoever you're sending forward, if you're Germany, you're still in good hands.
Yeah, you're still very much in very, very good hands. And even though some people may say it's a bit of an insistence to focus on Massa, but he still has a very realistic shot, at least from what the theoretical times are anything to go by. For instance, top 4 overall on addiction with a 57.384, less than half a tenth away from the world record. Or, may I remind you, Massa, former world record holder on Bourdon with a .902. He only got pipped just 7 hours ago by both Josh and Brinken with the .855s and .884s that are now on the public leaderboards. And in terms of the other map, Cryomass, he's not too shabby either. He's on a .642 established 6 hours ago, about a tenth away, less than a tenth away from Josh's world record established 7 hours ago. So I think it's still going to be one of the players at the sharp end, but none of the other contenders are anything to scoff at either. As we are soon to get started, there will be about a 30-second downtime whilst everybody gets onto the first map, which will get revealed in short order. And just talking about those facts there, I think you can start to see why I decided to chicken out of the prediction in the previous panel, because it's just such a tough call to make. And we're going to be starting off on Bourdon. This is going to be where Massa has the best theoretical time with a .902. Looking at the others, Elkon, 55.001 in that previous match. He's going to get that 54 in that match, I'm telling you. Then we're going to have Letzter on the .125. And as for Granati, if I can find him a little bit lower down, yes, he is on the .171. So definitely nothing to scoff at in terms of times either. But if you really want to be at the sharp end, you need a low .1 to a .0 at least.
Yeah, I'll keep my eye out for those 54s, no doubt about it. I think they have to come through, especially for Elkon. You know, we talked so much about the German players, we might as well talk about the Czechian as well. Elkon going back up against Letzler, who they did lose to off of the upper bracket performance. So I was talking about it earlier. I think this could be a revenge arc for Elkon, not only against the German players who are inundated in this lower finals matchup, but also against Letzler, the player who took him down to the lower bracket. Oh, G-Geek, it is so exciting finally getting it started.
Yeah, round 1 underway. Massa, Letzter, Granati, Elkon in that order at the exit of point to number 4 and sector number 1. Massa streaking ahead by about a tenth and a half through the plastic onto the jump into the sausage row, manages the landing quite beautifully before checkpoint number 6 in the start of Sector 3 with those little bumps through the 2 tight chicanes before the long left-hander before checkpoint number 7. Still Massa in front. Granati moving up into P2, locked in a battle between himself, Elcon, and Letzter as we get onto checkpoint 8 in the grass road. Then the change of camber before the long left-hander in the dirt. And look at Elcon coming back. Massa looking a little bit slow on the uptake at the exit to the line. It will be Elcon sniping everyone with a .195, 73 milliseconds ahead of Granati, Letzter in third, and Massa going from hero to zero in one fell swoop from first down to fourth in the opening round. Although it is a good round to have it happen, because had it happened later on in the game, there might be a bit more questioning going on.
Maybe, but you might start to raise an eyebrow here, because Elcon taking over the lobby right off the bat. Maybe it is just early stages, but truth of the matter is all these players have ran these tracks again and again and again. There's no more, inconsistencies to brush off. You gotta perform at your top here to get to that top 4 of this competition.
Letzter, Elcon, Massa after Granati after sector number 2. Massa unfortunately made an early mistake in sector number 1. He will be 2 seconds down, completely removed from the picture and the battle for the big points. In the meantime, it will be Letzter and Granati, the 2 big players, still fighting it out. Letzter currently edging his captain by about 0.07 of a second. Going into the finish line, it will be yet again another Letzter show with a .267, 46 milliseconds ahead of Granati. Elcon into third position, Massa down to fourth, and with that, it will be a tied, shared lead for Letzter and Elcon. Granati moving down to third with 12 points.
Also with some work to get done here, as that is 2 fourths in a row. Kind of saw it coming there off of the early mistake. And yeah, the coach and captain finish there, looking pretty good. Those players maybe feeling confident after still performing so well in the finals despite being down in this position. Asa looking to turn things around, though, as they do start round 3 in the lead by a hair. It is almost too close to call between him and Letzter.
And this time it is Elcon's turn to be left by the wayside and fall victim to Sector 1's antics. He will be falling down to 4th, 6/10 down compared to the leading duo of Massa and Letzter. And Granati also a little bit further removed compared to where he would like to be. Will take advantage of a little bit of a slowdown from Letzter on the way towards checkpoint 7 to get back in a battle for 2 extra points. In the meantime, Massa looking to fight back after those horrendous 2 opening rounds. Granati touches the outside wall in the final corner before checkpoint number 9. Massa will get the round win with a 55.122, 4/10 clear of Letzter. Elcon in third, Granati down in 4th position. A 10-pointer that is very welcome at this early stage of the game that will put him on to 16 points and moving up to 3rd, and the gaps have shrunk back down for 5 points between 1st and last.
Feel like at this top level of the competition, you can fall behind very quickly. We kind of saw that from Granati in the upper finals beforehand. Nearly didn't catch up when it came down to the end of it. So for Massa to pull out that first place is instrumental. When it comes to the long term of this competition, you do not want to fall too far behind too early, which Granati is trying not to do in this race right here. Able to hold on to the top 3 for a moment, as this might be our closest race yet.
The first time in a couple of rounds that we've seen all 4 drivers make it clean through sector number 1 without any significant gaps whatsoever. It will be Massa at the head of this very, very tightly knit group of 4 players by about a 10th from Granati, who's locked in battle with Elcon. Letzter bringing up the rear in P4, trying to mount a fight back against the player from Czechia as we go all the way around the outside. The slingshot, it does not pay out for Massa, who barely clips the wall at the end with the right rear. Letzter going super low in the end of that track, but it's Granati taking a 10-pointer at long last, it seems like, ahead of Elcon by 83 milliseconds with a .254. Letzter third, Massa going through the safe finish, finishes in 4th position, will be moving his points tally to 19 points, and will be sent back down to last place, but still a somewhat closed gap from 25 points to 19 points. It only is 6 apart from first to last, as we are going to be moving on to Addiction. Mimes map coming in very, very soon, adding a little bit of a difficulty spike in the middle of that map pack.
Yeah, which I like to see. I mean, let's bring on the difficulties. Let's bring on the challenges now. Masa's so close to completing that comeback arc at the end of the map, but then unfortunate at the end there, falling behind once again. I still love that reactor finish, though. That has to be one of the best maps in this competition. But, G-Geek, I'm sure you're excited to see some more challenges face these top competitors because, while we saw some of the closest competitions there at the end there, and nearly every player not making a mistake there at the end, and the mistakes may begin to be more frequent as we get into this next map.
Yeah, mistakes are definitely going to be starting to creep in a little bit more frequent with how on edge some of these sectors are. For instance, the switch from one side to the other of the sausage plastic road in the early part of the map from checkpoint 2 to 3, as we're going to be witnessing in a few seconds as round number 1 is underway. Let's see. So this is this particular sector I'm referring to, going from one side to the other. We've seen plenty of people getting caught out, and Granati gets caught out by touching the inside of the island with the left front. We've seen other people sliding out by going a little bit too aggressive on that little transition from one side to the other of the road. And so far, Granati will be falling to almost a second down compared to the rest of the field.
Just the tightest margins right now to work between. Leicester right behind Masa here. Feels like a two-horse race coming down to the end of it, though. Elcon not giving up by any stretch. Between the turns here, Masa just a half a car's length ahead with the back tire. Just does catch the boost necessary. One right turn remaining after the next boost, and then the big jump. Masa, can they hold on to this lead? Absolutely. Even takes the narrow finish there, leaving no room for Leicester to take the lead.
0.667 for Masa, 47 milliseconds ahead of Leicester. Great end to the round there for the Germans as Leicester takes over the overall lead by 1 point from Masa. And look at the gaps, 2 points between first and fourth. 30 for Leicester, 29 for Masa, and 28 apiece for Elcon and Granati. This is looking extremely backed up as we make our way onto round number 2. Will someone get caught out with that island? The answer is a no, although Leicester will be falling a little bit behind, about a 10th down, and this time Granati gets caught out at the end of sector number 1. So does Leicester. 2 Germans already out of the picture by the end of the first 5 checkpoints. Elcon and Masa will be continuing to do battle for first and second.
We mentioned the mistakes would creep in a little more frequently, and that's exactly the case. Elcon showcasing that maybe just a smooth run is all they need to take the lead, but a little more speed needed for that, as Masa has been showcasing excellence on this track. Could finish with a win. One more turn to go on the right side, and yes, this seems to be their track so far. Another win, pulling them into the lead.
And just look at what the clock said, 0.504. This is a 10th and a half away, there or thereabouts, from Levon's world record. So Masa looking to be on a wire when it comes to pace.
God, that's just so difficult when it comes to it. I was mentioning how a smooth run might just mean more points, but the reality is you need to be picture perfect, pixel perfect, as we move through the course, which some players are struggling to do so, but there's no mistakes that are taking them completely out of the race. I say that just as Granati clips the edge.
Yeah, Granati's start here on the Diction seems to be the bane of his existence. That start from Myman, especially that checkpoint between checkpoint 2 and 3, that plastic sausage road sector is really causing him the most amount of problems, and so far it's going to be his fellow compatriots Leicester and Masa in first and second. Leicester looking to get some momentum back going his way, and so far this is a great way to do it with a 2/10 lead over Masa. Elcon a further bit removed compared to where he would have expected it to be, about half a second down compared to the current round leader, and it looks as if the positions will stay as is. Leicester, the stopwatch will be a 0.809, slightly more subdued compared to the 0.504 that we've seen earlier from Masa, but still a respectable time nonetheless. Leicester with a 10-pointer will snatch the lead back from, no, I'm getting a little bit excited there, 2 points behind Masa. Masa still holds on to the lead, but by the skinniest margins.
Yeah, I mean, again, credit due to Masa. It was not his story on the first map, but a first second puts them firmly in first place amongst the competition. We're starting to stretch out those points. We started with a 2-point differential between first and last, and we are far from that case now. Granati trying to get the revenge arc on this map. We talked about the midsection being the most difficult for him so far. Seems to be cruising and cruising in first place as of now.
Currently, everybody's still looking very tightly in at a 10th between first and last. Currently, it is Leicester bringing up the rear of the field as we make our way through checkpoint 7 and 8 with that double right-hander. Moving on to checkpoint 8, sector number 3, the reactor grass part, the downhill, and still the three locked within each other's ghost almost. 84 milliseconds between first and third, and this time a huge slowdown will be coming down from Massa. Elcon going on the attack against Granati. It's not going to be enough. Granati will take the round win with another 0.5 in the banks as well. 0.568, over a 10th clear of Elcon. Leicester in third, Massa in P4, which is going to be hurting his gaps a little bit. Granati moving up to 45 and moving up to third place. And look at the gaps again. 4 points between first and fourth. Everything still looking very nicely contested as all 4 drivers are a third of the way through the finalist status.
I mean, I gotta say, we nearly had the masterclass from Massa, first for second, and then was tied for first coming into those last few turns. One mistake. Talk about running on E there. Just, what's that?
Huge slowdown.
Yeah, just you slow down there. The gas tank ran out towards the end, so you end up seeing these points, these leaderboard continue to be so tight. What's your make of the final map here, though, in the rotation here, G-Geek? Anyone got the edge?
In terms of cryomass, if I am looking correctly, it looks as though Massa has got the theoretical advantage, but it seems as though he's not been on this top of this consistency game so far in the first part of the rotation of the map, so it will take a little bit of a better effort for him to try and get back on the ball. Currently sitting on the 0.642 in terms of time. Granati's on the 0.672, 0.665 for Elcon just an hour ago, and as far as Leicester's concerned, he's on the 0.728, so somewhat nicely spread out, but not too far apart as round 1 here on Cryomass is underway.
A reminder, everybody, this is the lower finals right now of the mixed solo tournaments for the Trackmania games to move on to the grand finals to play against the 2 Great Britain players waiting for that competition. The other 2 knocked out as 5th and 6th in this tournament. It started, as we mentioned, on Cryomass. Elcon, the only Czechian player here against the 3 Germans, holding a lead by a tire's length against Granati, against Leicester. Is it going to come down to the wire here for the finale as Massa even pushing for the lead? But Elcon into the dirt, trying to keep that tire off the wall, just barely holding the lead into the grass now. Some other players taking the narrower turns. Leicester gets the narrow angle, gets the win by 300ths.
And can we talk about the tie for second between Massa and Elcon? Massa, by virtue of being ahead of Elcon in the previous checkpoint, will get the second place and the 6 points that come with it. That was such a great opener on this rotation here of Cryomass. Nobody left each other any room. They kept really tightly knit. It was basically an atom of helium that we saw race down the racetrack, given how tightly grouped those cars were. In the meantime, we go into round number 2, and this time the atom has been split. We have a proton that has exited the core, and that is going to be Massa. 4 seconds down due to an early mistake on the ice slide on checkpoint number 3. Granati in first, Elcon in second, Leicester in P4, as we do see Granati trying to pull away, trying to give himself a little bit of room for freedom here as we go into sector number 3. Checkpoint number 9, crossed right now, heading onto the mid part of the ice slide. Who gets the best snap? Best snap will be going the way of Elcon. Leicester sliding all the way out, will be dropping down to third as a result of that. Granati still in the lead by about 0.2 of a second. Elcon in second position, looking very much poised to take those 6 points home and in the bag, and it will be a 0.668 for Granati. What was that time all about? Just over a 10th behind Josh's world record. Very nice time for the wheelman.
Oh my, you'd think that the rest of the competition is slacking a little bit with the distance that Granati had, but no, it was just masterclass out of Granati. 10th away there from your record on this map, from that time attack demon that Josh had been. But again, that is in the past. These players are of the present, only 2 of the future. Massa trying to collect themselves after an early mistake on the last round, ends up pushing against Granati, and again, off of the momentum that you might have out of a great race. Granati was looking great until one brushing against the wall.
Yeah, slight brush of the island before checkpoint number 5 for Granati, followed by a slight deviation of trajectory and slight flutter for Letzter midway through the long left-hander after checkpoint number 6. So 2 Germans are already dropping out of contention for the big points. The only one remembering is Massa. It will be almost a 10-pointer. It wasn't the case to be here in this round after that slight touch after checkpoint 11 for the German. And Elcon gets a 10-pointer, or does he? Yes, he does! I thought he was going to get sniped because of that little touch before the run into the risky finish, but thankfully for him, he still holds a 60-millisecond gap at the end over Granati, but that was a bit of a close call, a bit too close to his liking.
Way too close for comfort. Great for us viewers that get to experience a close finish there. That's why you never give up at Granati. Oh, the snipe for the win was just so close. Well, we move on instead to another race here as Massa early on had a lead, seems to be lagging a bit behind based on the speed of the others. Elcon, such a difficult competition here against all 3 German players still remaining, but they seem to be the smoothest of them all into this track.
Granati with a slight wall touch in checkpoint number 6 through 7 on the way into the long left-hander in the dirt, so he will be dropping down to P4. Elcon in first with a 2.5-tenth gap over Letzter. Massa further 2 tenths down compared to his fellow compatriot Letzter. As we go on to the last few sectors and the last few corners, it will be Elcon taking yet another round win, and it will be a .955, a 10th clear of Letzter. Massa in third, Granati in P4, and so far the man from Czechia is actually trying to push himself a little bit further away from the rest of the field. Everybody makes it past halfway through to the finalist stage. 76 points for Elcon and 70 for the opposition. Looking very, very solid. A very good cryomass for Elcon there.
I mean, we went from ending, I think, map 2 to a 2-point separation between first and last. Then it was a 4-point separation. Now, quick maths, I think we got 13-point separation between Elcon and Massa. And what do you know? I mean, Jiggy, I know you did not predict this match because you were like, no, you cannot get me to do that. But for anyone that did, if you had the Czechian in the lead, that is the current status here. 6-point lead from Elcon moving into the next round of these maps.
Here we are then on the second rotation of Bourdon, starting in less than 5 seconds with the end of a warm-up. Just a quick recap of the scores. 76 points for Elcon, 70 for Letzter, 67 for Granati, 63 for Massa. Still very much all to play for. In fact, I think am I right in saying it's the first occurrence that we haven't crossed past 2/3 of the way there to finalist status after the first rotation? I think I'm right in saying this.
I'm not sure. I mean, it's you'd have to check me on that one, G-Geek. Sure.
We'll get a bit of a check on that maybe later on with our panel members. In the meantime, let's get back to the race at hand. It will be Letzter emerging in the lead after the first sector, and Elcon will be falling by the wayside, almost half a second down compared to the leading trio. Letzter leading ahead of Massa and Granati. A 1-2-3 for Germany right now shaping up as Letzter gets a nice and solid conservative line through there. Doesn't get as much speed as Granati was able to pull through. And look at the wheelman going on the charge against Letzter before the finish. Who's going to get it? It looks as though Massa might have had the upper hand, and he did indeed with a .234, 53 milliseconds ahead of Granati, who clocks in a .287 as a result. Letzter in third and Elcon in P4. Elcon may be a sign of things that could be potentially on the cards for Bourdon with those kinds of slip-ups that he had in the first sector, which seemed to be a little bit more troublesome than it was in the previous matches for him so far.
Yeah, those slip-ups could occur again, but with less than a 1/10 of a second separating the top 3 on that last track, you can see how close it is. Each player has been running these courses so many times that they're ready to go and be the top performers. The coach right now of Germany leading the way. How much can they lead by? Maybe a car's length, maybe a car and a half as we get into the midsection of the course.
Sector number 3 now started. Leicester emerging in the lead with a little bit of a gap to his fellow countrymen, Granati and Massa. But look at Elkon making a rise through the rankings and actually managing to get back onto the side of Leicester. But both Granati and Elkon slow down dramatically with a significant wall impact for Granati, a slight wall brush for Elkon. Leicester will come away with a 10-pointer with a .195 on the cards as well. Massa will clock in a .308 and come with the 6 points that come with it. Elkon in third, Granati in P4. We're past 2/3 of the way to finalist status for both Leicester and Elkon on 84 and 83. Massa is right there on 79.
Yeah, you start to wonder here. I mean, who's going to be the first to 120? But it continues to change so much. Elkon had the lead for a bit, but Leicester is locking in. That much we know. That reactor finish, again, keeping us on our toes as to who's going to lead. And now, I mean, G-Geek, I think we saw our first .1. I'm wondering if we'll see a 54 this time around. Certainly it would be nice to see. I know we saw one during the last competition, but they're rare.
Yeah, they're rare to come into .1s or .0s for that matter, but so far it looks to be pretty spicy in terms of the times maybe coming from Massa. Maybe a .1, mid-.1 could be on the cards there. Granati in second place, Elkon in third, looking to try and chase Granati down to the wire, down to the final couple of checkpoints and couple of trigger points. It will be Elkon sniping Granati by 11 milliseconds for the second place, but it's Massa in the lead and with the round win and the 10 points that come with it with a .155 to his credit. 89 points apiece for Elkon and Massa, 87 for Leicester, 80 for Granati. It's still all open.
I think we have to give credit to Elkon here just based on consistency. I mean, there have been some slip-ups, there have been some mistakes from a lot of the players, but for Elkon, they're holding on to this lead just by sheer top two after top two. And it's really impressive to see. That being said, Elkon does have the top two at this time, falling right behind Leicester, feeling pretty comfortable on this map, but Granati challenging them still.
Massa, the first one to unfortunately fall by the wayside at a very slow hairpin on the way to checkpoint number 3. He will be 7/10 down, entering sector number 3. It is a tightly knit battle between Leicester, Granati, and Elkon for 1, 2, 3. Look at the attack from Elkon here on the second half of that corner before checkpoint number 8. Just decides to put it all on the line, puts it all on the racetrack, leaves nothing left to take as we go on to the final part, to the line. It will be Leicester winning by 15 milliseconds ahead of Elkon. .195 to a .210. Granati behind with a .212, just 2 milliseconds off. And Leicester retakes the lead at 97, 95 for Elkon, 92 for Massa, and it will be 84 for Granati as we're going to be circling back onto our next map, which is going to be Addiction.
That last map, though, was insane for Leicester. That was so consistent, top finishes. I did think that I cursed Elkon on that last one because Granati did pass them, and I was talking about all their top twos, but they just eked it out by a couple hundredths. Ridiculous to see. Again, the consistency, the lack of mistakes. We think about previous competitions, G-Geek, and people are winning just based on the smoothness, the cleanliness, the lack of wall brushes. But here, you've got to perform at your best.
You got to perform at your best. And if you're Granati, I would be starting to shiver a little bit because remember, first rotation, that start, especially that sausage roll in the plastic checkpoints 2 and 3 has been the absolute thorn on the side of Granati, and he certainly doesn't want to relive that experience that he lived in the first rotation. Currently sitting on 84, on the bubble of potentially going back into a fight with Elkon and Massa, although he still needs to clinch some 11-point deficit back to be within the fight and even out the playing field as we make our way through to round number 1.
And Elkon, what can you do? Again, the lone check-in, trying to hold on to a lead and maybe have 3 countries represented in the grand finals. If it's not for Elkon, it will just be Great Britain and Germany for a similar feature that we saw from the upper finals, 2 and 2. But that is not to be the case if these two continue to hold the lead. It has been Leicester and Elkon in the lead, as we saw on the last map, but Massa wants to change the narrative just for a second, able to overtake them for a moment. Final turn to the jump, and Massa will stay behind. Elkon secures it.
Straight into the .5 as well for Elkon with a .572. Leicester not far off with a .604. Massa not too far off either, but look at the standings. P4, Granati 7 seconds down. The demons of the first sector have struck again for the wheelman, and it looks as though they might not be giving him any sort of break whatsoever so far here on Addiction. Round number 2 of that second rotation is underway. Checkpoint number 2 heading onto the plastic sausage road. Who's going to fall by the wayside this time? Granati makes it clean. He will emerge almost in the lead. In checkpoint number 3, does make it through the double. Left-hander just fine. Elcon and Granati side by side. Could this be, at long last, one clean round for the wheelman coming up? It sure does look like he's got that section a little bit more dialed in, a little bit of airtime for Elcon on the transition into the left-hander in the dirt from checkpoint number 6. And unfortunately for Granati, it comes all unstuck at the end of checkpoint 6 through to checkpoint 7. Elcon, Leicester, Massa locked in battle. 1/10 from first to third. It will be Elcon leading, but gets a little clip into checkpoint number 10. Leicester promoted into the lead. Massa in second place will not be able to dislodge him. 0.644 despite that bonk into the arch of the finish block. Leicester first, Massa second, Elcon third, Granati down to fourth, albeit 8/10 down compared to the 6 seconds from before, but still, that map for mine is just giving him absolute nightmares.
It is, but I'm focused on the top 2 here. Leicester got basically the perfect finish that they could ask for. They needed a first place to get even a shot at getting on that qualifying point. They need another first here, but more importantly, they've kept Elcon out of range for it at that cursed 109. Elcon, it's very important to stay ahead of Leicester to try to keep them behind.
Elcon, Massa, Granati, Leicester so far into checkpoint number 5. If it doesn't happen on Sector 1, it happens on Sector 2 for Granati, and case in point, right in the uphill. But Elcon also almost at the exact same spot that Granati actually got the slowdown. 1 round to go, and this time it's Leicester getting the wall brush before sector number 3. Massa promoted into an unassailable lead of 7/10 of a second as a result of the trials and tribulations of all of his opponents, and he will be grabbing yet another 10-pointer for himself with a 0.644. Move on to 112 points in the standings. Leicester will fall on the dreaded 119 scoreline. Elcon will move on to 113 by finishing third. Granati only moves up to 93.
Oh, we are dangerously close to that qualification point now. In the 1-teens now are 3 different players. But Elcon and Massa, they both need a first place to get onto that qualification points. Leicester, it is confirmed for them. So this is sort of a free ride, no pressure run for them. For the others, the pressure couldn't be higher.
The pressure couldn't be higher indeed. As you pointed out, they do need the 10 points for first place. If it was a second place, it would be 119 for Elcon, 118 for Massa. And it looks as though Elcon will be completely out of the debate for those 10-pointers. It will be a 7/10 deficit to overcome that is nigh on impossible at this stage of the round. Massa, Leicester, Granati, a German 1-2-3 lockout so far. Moving on to sector number 3 with the reactor grass part. Granati in the lead. We've got Leicester shuffling positions along with his captain and with his teammate Massa. It's going to be looking very close. Massa is the first to waver, the first to flinch. Slows down dramatically. Granati versus Leicester. Coach versus captain. Who gets it? It will be the captain with a 0.512 to boot. 0.523 for Leicester is not too shabby either, but Leicester confirmed into the finalist status regardless of results. Granati is into the triple-digit zone at 103.
Gotta hand it to Granati. I mean, on a map that they've had such a difficult time with, getting that first place is a little bit cleansing, I think. A cathartic experience for Granati, and maybe some momentum required to get them possibly up to qualification point, but the storyline remains the toughest for Granati. There's no stretch of the imagination that this one comes down to this last map. Leicester with a win could be that first quali to the grand finals to join the Great Britain players, but it's too close to call for the rest here, G-Geek.
Yeah, it is going to be very, very close to call. A quick recap of the scores. 116 apiece for both Elcon and Massa. Both have the potential to move into finalist status as long as they do not finish below third. They have to avoid that dreaded last place, lest they would risk seeing the dreaded 119 points tally next to their name. And here we are on the first round of that second rotation of Cryomass. Pyro, take it away.
Let's get into it. Like you said, Masa and Elcon have to avoid that last place on this race. So what's the risk management look like? Obviously, you have to avoid any big mistakes, but you want to be competitive as well. You want to deny that win from Leicester, who remains in last place, but there's no telling still who could win it. Leicester still in the running.
As soon as we saw that, unfortunately, a very, very hefty wall brush with the right rear on the way through the slingshot in the dirt from checkpoint 6 for Leicester, and Masa with a heavy slowdown as well, so he will be out of the picture. Granati and Elcon 1 and 2. Masa down to last place. This is the worst case scenario for Mr. Dennis Lotze as we go all the way down the hill through checkpoint number 12 in that long right-hander in the dirt. Elcon versus Granati. This is for all the marbles here on this round to the line. Granati with a much better lineup for the horizontal finish. We'll get a .805, 1/10 clear of Elcon, who moves into finalist status. Granati moves up onto 113. Still 2 spots left to take for the grand final to join the Brits.
And amazingly, Granati needed 3 wins in a row to get to the finalist position in 3 races. So they've given themselves the opportunity to do so. But maybe that storyline is in the background as the competition here looks to be between the Czechian and the German coach. We've got Elcon versus Leicester.
Here we are then, first double finalist round. Granati now emerging into the lead on 113. Could give us a treat with a potential quadruple finalist. He does need to win the round though. He is currently looking to have done a great job, at least in the first half of the map, looking to end second sector in a banger as well. Currently sitting almost a 10th ahead of Elcon, who almost hits the wall on the way to checkpoint 8. That was a very lucky escape from the man from Czechia. In the meantime, sector number 3 started. The ice slide who gets the best snap. It will be Masa, who has a bit of a setup with a slight slide through the double right-hander before checkpoint number 11. And it looks as though our wish will be granted in just a few corners time for 2 spots in the grand final. We go on to quadruple finalist. And this means that those next 2 rounds on Cryomass will be the last of this consolidation final.
2 races left. No ifs, ands, or buts about it. The winner here moves on to face the 2 players from Great Britain in your grand finals of the mixed solo tournament. No mistakes left to be had. Only the best to be showcased here on this map.
Grab your popcorn and just enjoy the next 2 rounds coming your way. So far, it's Elcon leading the way after sector number 1. A 10th ahead of Masa, Granati, and Leicester. So far, Germany without any answer to the man from Czechia, who looks to continue pounding his advantage and continues to make a breakaway run for freedom. So far, the gaps are stable about a 10th and a half for the man from Czechia. As we go through sector number 2, checkpoint 9, sector 3 started with the ice slide. Who gets the best snap? Elcon looks to be snazzy. Granati looks snazzy as well. Gets a great lineup for the double right-hander into checkpoint 11. Look at how close he's closed the gap. He's down to 700ths of a second. Down to the back bumper of Elcon. He's going to be taking one Hail Mary into the final corner to dislodge the check into the line. It's not enough for 17 milliseconds. Granati falls short. And with Elcon, with a .775, it will be one more nation into the grand final of the mixed solo tournament of the Trackmania Games.
It's official. 3 nations will be represented in that grand finals against 3 Germans. The Czechian does it. I cannot believe it. Had first from the get-go and never let go. But the question is it Masa? Is it the coach? Is it the captain? Who moves on to join them?
It is going to be one tough ordeal. It looks as though we might have already lost someone. Is it the captain? No, it's not the captain. It's not the coach either. It is none other than Masa that fell by the wayside with that little wall brush on the way up the left-hander in the dirt from checkpoint 6 to 7. Granati sprints away with the lead by about 0.2 of a second. Going through sector number 3, double right-hander to checkpoint 11. Look at the gap that Granati has managed to build up. Leicester is just a little bit running out of steam, running out of road, running out of power, running out of room to make anything happen. And the captain will be through to the grand final of the mixed solo tournament of the Trackmania Games with a 57.795. Leicester and Masa will be reduced to cheerleaders to try and get Germany one more medal. But it will be Epos Bozbez Elcon and Granadi in the finals of the mixed solo tournament. This is going to be one absolute barn burner of a match.
And there's almost no question about it. I think a lot of folks counted out Granadi on that final match because they were so far back. I want to say they were on 93 when basically everyone was over 110. So you're looking at Granadi like, okay, with 93, you have to win, and then win again to even just be in the conversation. That's exactly what happened. What a comeback story there for Granadi, but maybe the biggest story of them all is the Czechian rising above all of the competition. I want to hear from the desk. I want to hear what you guys thought out of that absolute nail biter.
Yeah, we're going to be getting our panelists in a little bit, of course, but what a match we've witnessed. And there's still one to go. That's the quote-unquote worst part. There is one to go still. So imagine how the sparks will fly. Or are we going to see Team GB return to their dominating ways? That's going to be the big question. There's been a 1 hour break between the winner's final and the grand final for both Boss and Epos. It's not going to be enough to kind of like get some rust set in and kind of prevent them from performing at the very best, making finals a little bit exciting. We will have to wait and see. This is going to be one hell of a grand final. Again, as we said, the lineups are just looking absolutely stellar, and I think our panelists who are going to be joining us in a short amount of time are going to be all in agreement with what we just said there.
I'm curious, G-Geek, if you're waiting in the grand finals, are you running these tracks again and again and again, or are you giving yourself a chance to kind of take a breather and wait?
I feel like in that case, and I think both Orion and Twiggy would be, they're on the same boat, or maybe they're going to have different opinions. I guess we should just bring them in now to get their opinion on that. But I feel like I've been playing from them for so long, especially if I'm in the perspective of Masa, where I go through all the lower bracket. I just take a little bit of a breather because my hands, my fingers, I wouldn't feel them anymore.
I do think that's a good point. Orion, I want to get your... you overheard something a little bit earlier, but I do just want to quickly, we got the maximum amount of diversity in there on that one. We did get the Czechian into the grand final, which is great news. But yeah, no, Granadi is an interesting point, right? He is ill. I think if you've tuned into his stream at any point during today, you will have heard that in his voice. But I think overheard something when we were.
So I was obviously spectating that and was kind of hopping between main broadcast, Granadi's POV, Masa's POV, and it was on Addiction where there was a couple of rounds in a row that Granadi crashed, and he was just not feeling it. Like, I think something he said was, "I don't want to play anymore. I just want to watch." Like, he was so deflated. And then the next round won and said like, "Yeah, I just almost drove my PB." So something, reignited that fire in him to come from, being so down and counting himself out of it to getting to that quadruple finalist, clutching up. Like, we said this about Granadi earlier, like, he never really implodes, never really gets that frustrated. Like, he goes, "Okay, I've had a couple bad rounds, this is what I can do." And now he's back in the grand final. Admittedly, he did lose to both Epos and Boz, and has obviously come into this grand final in what you would describe as a 4th place, but definitely deserves to be there. And I think we'd all agree with that.
Yeah, I think absolutely. That was it was always going to be a tight game, and as soon as one qualified, having 3 Germans left in the server, I do think that Granadi over the course of today has showed why he deserves to be in the grand final. But now, obviously, the biggest test is going to come on through. The grand final is obviously wrought with players who outqualified him into the grand final just earlier. Epos and Bozbez have just been on top of everything so far the whole time today. They have not had a moment, I don't think, where I have even questioned for a moment that they would be in 1st and 2nd place. So I'm a little scared for both of the players who qualified there from that game into the grand finals, because I don't think there's any way, unless something has happened in the last hour, that these two will give up an inch, a mile, anything to let these in. But G-Geek, what are you thinking? Do you think anybody has gained enough momentum over the course of the game you just casted to come back towards Epos and Bozbez and give them a run for their money?
I definitely think they have the momentum to try and give a fight back to Epos and Bozbez, but as we've touched on before you went back onto screen, is that it's going to be more, since there's been like an hour of break in a sense between the winter final and the grand final. Is that 1 hour going to be enough? Have they done enough to prevent rust from setting in and from starting the match off on the wrong foot, in a sense, and messing up rounds that should have been easy, the ones that should have been able to get them back in the groove and performing at 100%? That's going to be the main big key factor here in this grand final. Just how is it going to be looking for the Brits in early game compared to both Granadi and Elcon, who are all fired up from just making that Consolidation final run?
Yeah, of course, Pyro, did you see anything in that game that you thought would spark kind of a hero run in that grand final, or do you think it will just be, once again, the Epos and Bozbez show, and they're going to have to fight for that third position?
Well, I did make the argument earlier that if the two Germans couldn't do it in the grand finals, to give the other two, Masa and Elcon, a chance. So, I was half right on that, half not. What I did see, though, in that matchup was like pure grit and determination. Like Orion told the story beautifully. It's from the lowest of the low to the highest of the highs. What a comeback to be on your near PB and then go out in true resilient fashion on that qualification. So I think both players showed that amount of resilience, plus the pressure that's on Elcon to have to fight a 4 qualifier or 4 finalists against 3 from a different country and still come out with the win. That's the type of resilience that can pull you to a ultimate win here in this tournament.
All right, before we head to a break before the grand final, I just want to take a look at that graphic for the grand final here, so we can remind everybody exactly who is going to be in this one. There are your grand finalists, 2 representatives from Team GB in Epos and Bozbez, both of whom won in the upper finals to qualify for this position. Elcon representing Czechia and Granadi to represent Germany in the grand finals, both of which fought from the lower finals to get here, and it's been one hell of a day of Trackmania. This is just the mixed solos. We already watched again tech teams earlier today, so we've had so much going on, and this really is one of the more exciting, and I think one of the events that most people are going to be looking forward to. They're looking at their favorite players to win this one, to represent their countries. So I cannot hype this up any more than it already has been hyped up. But yeah, any final thoughts before I throw us to a break? Because I think we only have about 10 minutes until we get started on that one. I'll start with Orion, because I haven't thrown to you so much.
Yeah, I mean, Epos has already faced Elcon in the bracket. And Elcon was actually last in that match, 4th place against, that was with Letzter and Stuffed. So even came behind Stuffed there. So I would say, by virtue, I'd have Epos above Elcon. Do I have Boz above Elcon? Unsure. Elcon just has this innate ability to do absolutely insane things in Trackmania. For example, does anyone remember that thread of Ariadne track by SB Ville? Like 24-minute endurance track. I remember watching Elcon on that. It's 24-minute mixed map, basically. And just the quality, the level of driving for that amount of time, like, it just kind of cemented Elcon as one of like the great Trackmania players and someone you can never count out. And Granadi, I mean, maybe is not feeling it so much at the moment, but still putting in a grand finalist's performance. Could be a dark horse. I still think Epos and Boz, coming from that upper final, have the upper hand, but I wouldn't be surprised to see Elcon maybe split the Brits in 2nd place.
All right, I think we're running out of time to get a break going, so I'm going to have to cut off everybody else. We're going to go to a quick break, and we will be back with the grand finals of mixed solos here. Don't go anywhere. It is what an exciting matchup we have already had so far. It's been a full day of it, and we've got one more game for you, so I hope you join us for that in just a moment.